So what are we doing today? Just say what the plan is.
Second day here at the ranch ferries, and I'm getting my new arrows set up. These are my old arrows, just got muzzies on them and 400 spine arrows that I just walked into Shields and bought.
And what would the total weight end up being on those, do you think?
Probably 420,
Just
415.
your standard.
FOC's 8%. It's a pretty standard arrow. Everybody's shooting that arrow, and that's fine. We know you've had good success with them. You've been killing deer. One of the things I've discussed with y'all, and I don't encounter this because I don't hunt the way you guys do. So all you public land guys swinging out of trees and bailing off into the woods, it's the shot angles that you may get. So we're going to work with Ted's setup and run him up into the mid 500s with FOC around 17 or 18%, and then shoot the Hornet or shoot one of the other kind of broadheads. We may even shoot the muzzies, that's fine. We're preparing for when you get that little slightly quartering in shot and you're still going to be able to tuck in rather than center mass one and try to liver hit one and have to sit there and say, well, God, we're going to have to wait. I mean, it's responsible to wait for an hour and a half and I hope we go find him, right? The blood trail's going to be weird, it's going to be back through the guts, when you could creep forward and get into the hard part of the heart and the lungs. You just want to have what I call a plan B arrow. It's not my word, that's Dr. Ashby, but it's an arrow that where whatever situation y'all get in, y'all can feel like you have some confidence to shoot. We want to add some arrow mass, mostly in the front, a little bit stiffer arrow, and then we're going to check arrow flight down to bear shaft, and then see how that works out. So we'll move forward with that. So what we did, I got to talking to the guys, and they said, hey, we all want to tinker around with this stuff while we're down there with you, messing around with arrows. So I've got some Sirius Vulcans. These are 300 spine. I fletched them with pretty significant helical on there, just playing around with that. Decent size fletchings, nothing crazy small. They're veins, durable, weather, all that stuff. I Nox tuned them, and I've got my magic numbers on there. And you always shoot this vein up. And I have the weights written on there. This shaft is 434, no point. So you're going to be right around 555, 560 with 125 grain point. And that's a huge jump, mostly in FOC. The FOC is going to go with his old arrows. It was 8%. These are 17, 18%, all forward weight. Going to go cut on contact. May shoot the muzzies, that's fine. But we want to have a perfectly flying arrow.
And why is that FOC important?
The FOC is all about penetration. We want this arrow, when it hits, you have a highly concentrated amount of weight right here, as opposed to throughout the whole arrow system. It's preferable not to have the arrow driving the broadhead. It's preferable for the broadhead to be pulling into the tissues for hits on hard things. Listen, if you hit something soft and in between the ribs and stuff, you get away with anything. I can't deny that. But we're not planning for that. We're planning for, oh my, right? Dead center of a rib, hit the edge of the scapula, something like that you want it to penetrate. And we're concentrating 225 grains of the whole shaft right here. So on impact, it's right there, and it's driving, and then the shaft's behind it. We've all hit nails with a hammer. When you miss a nail, it cocks to the side. When you have an arrow that's very light, and this part is pushing, if it hits a little wonky, it's going to go like that on impact with meat. You can get a very light arrow to fly fine, that's fine. I'm talking about at impact with your target animal. You don't want this arrow to hit and lever. It's immediately going to reduce penetration, and then your wound's here, and it hits the edge of the wound, and it's going to drag. It's just going to shut down your penetration. So that's why we want to have some forward to center weight. There seems to be a sweet spot in this world. I asked Ted what he was shooting. He's shooting 28 and 60 pounds. And I have found that a 300 spine arrow cut to about the front of the shelf with 225 grains up front is a sweet spot. It seems like I'm getting a lot of subscribers who are finding that number to be awesome. And then if you want to go to 650 or 7, you got to keep tinkering. But if you just want to put together a basic arrow that's increased FOC and going to have higher penetration, you're going to find that 300 spine for 60 pounds, 65 pounds, and 225 grains up front is a hard thing to beat. And we've already shot his bow a bunch this morning messing with it, and it's it's running. I mean, it's really running. He's already shot through 2 fletchings, my custom fletching job, and they've already ruined them. So that's a good thing. I got a fletching tool, we'll fix it. But it's good to see that I can just inadvertently give Ted these arrows, and they're cutting fletchings right off the bat. What we're going to do, we're going to do this a little bit backwards from what I normally have on my channel. I say start with bear shafts. We started Ted with fletched, watched him go in, said that looks pretty good, and then we took the fletchings off of one, and shot a bear shaft to make sure that it was pure. Anybody can do this. So 90% of you guys out there already have fletched arrows. Bear shafting is something that you've just never really explored. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this backwards. I'm going to have Ted shoot 2 or 3 right here with the fletched ones. We'll watch them go in, and then we'll shoot a bear shaft. And what I'll do is actually, we'll change the point weight and watch it move around. And then that'll show you a little bit about the basics of doing this. Bear shaft flight tells you that the arrow's coming off the bow perfectly clean. That's why a bear shaft is a nice thing to test. It's a little bit, the wind's starting to get up. It's not terrible right now. We're shooting about 10 yards. I've got a pig target, doesn't matter. One key, if you bear shaft, your target's got to sit still. You can't shoot a bag because the arrows will go in and just sag, and it'll drive you insane. The target we have is a great big pig target. It's real substantial. I put a dumbbell on like a block and make it sit real still so when you see the arrows go in there, right. If that target slides at all, you will drive yourself absolutely bonkers, because if you don't hit it in the dead center of the target, it's not going to slide backwards, it's going to slide to the side, and then you'll think your arrows are flying poorly, and they're not. So that's a little bit of a key there. So let's grab your bow and start slinging, and we'll see what happens. All right, so what we're doing with Ted's setup, since he wants to try to make a change here, we've got his standard 400 spine arrow. We got 125 grain point stock insert. This arrow's, low 400s, pretty standard arrow. And it doesn't mean you can't bear shaft a light arrow. It's fine. He's going to shoot a fletched arrow from his old group, and then he's going to shoot the bear shaft right next to it. We're shooting into the hard part of the pig instead of into the kill zone, because the kill zone's all chewed up. We want a very hard target so those arrows will stop, and we can see the results. If it goes into a soft spot, it can wiggle around. So we're just going to shoot it in the middle. So for you shot placement guys, we're just doing arrow tuning right now. Easy. We don't shoot him in the good part later. That's going to kill a pig tonight, so we got to get this thing rolling.
That's right.
All right. That looks pretty good, right? I mean, the arrow flight's good, and looks good in the target, straight in the target. Here comes the bear shaft. So all we did was, he had his stock arrows fletched from the factory right out of the box, and I cut the fletchings off with a knife. You can do this at your own house. All right, that looks pretty good until we go up to the target. And we've got a fletched arrow that looks real tight, but we have the bear shafts going in a little bit tail low, and it's kicked off to the side. And we would want both of these shooting in the same direction. So what that tells you is, at launch, that arrow's taken off a little bit wonky right off the launch of the bow, and if it has a broadhead on the front, it can create a little bit of inconsistency. And it's a lot of reasons why people say fixed blade broadheads don't fly, because this arrow, the arrow's going to come off like this a little bit. This is a wing, and so the fletchings are fighting with the point, and it's doing a little bit of this as it corrects going down range. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get the 300 spine arrow that we've been messing with, and we're going to repeat the same test. I got the fletched, and we got a bear shaft, and we'll just shoot in the same spot and see what the results are. So if you look back at the slow motion video, you'll see the bear shaft, and you might see it on the fletched. I haven't reviewed the footage yet, and that's fine. We'll see this. You might see it doing this when it hits the target. You have to understand that that's a direct correlation at impact on meat. It starts shaking. It's running into a hard object, and you can't control what you hit. It's totally uncontrollable what's under the animal's skin. So let's say you dead center a rib, which is ideal. If you're going to hit a bone, and it goes through the center of the rib and it's shaking, it's dragging the whole time. It's going to kill your penetration. You want it to just drive, because you can't solve that necessarily. So that's one of the things we're trying to correct, is having perfect impact and just driving and hitting perfectly plumb. It takes a lot of effort. If you try to undertake this, it may take a while. Tinker.
That's why you start now.
That's why you start now. It's, what is it? The 25th of June is a good time to start. If you watch my channel on the 1st of July, I'll have a 30-day warning or 60-day warning for deer season. Warning. Time to start tuning your arrow. All right, so we've jumped up to a Sirius Vulcan. It's got a 100 grain steel insert in it and 125 grain point. This arrow's 560 somewhere in there, and the FOC is about 17 or 18%. And we'll see what the results are here compared to his previous arrows. Oh, so quiet.
Yeah.
You know. All right, we're seeing pretty similar results with this one, but this one's much straighter. The other arrow was crossed over the top of this one. This is where you need to start realizing that you're part of the problem. You're not going to always get the bear shaft to absolutely perfectly go in straight. We got a little bit of wind today. We're outside and we're shooting, but this arrow is almost perfectly plumb, and then this one is obviously plumb with the fletch. We can repeat this just to check it, and we'll do that just to see if it was Ted releasing the bow. But don't get too obsessed. If you get an arrow that goes in, a bear shaft that goes in like that, you got problems, okay? When you start to get them to group and they go in, that arrow was probably about like that. That's when you're getting somewhere, okay? Just check it and make sure that it's running close. There's not a whole lot of difference between the 400, which is a little bit more to the left, but we didn't see as much impact shake. So let's shoot that one more time just to see what happens and see if we have consistency, or maybe it's Ted, and that could be you as well. Nice. There he is. So now we have them hitting pretty much in the same line, right? You're going to allow for this. This is not a fletched arrow. There's a lot of people in the industry who are going to say if you can't get the bear shaft and the fletched arrow to hit side by side, then there's something wrong. In my opinion, I don't think that matters. I think they're completely different arrows, but this one went in straight. Now you see it's a little bit more this direction. So what that tells the other arrow was a little bit this way, and then this one's a little bit that way if you're getting meticulous, right? For you engineers and folks that are out there looking at this, that's Ted. It's okay. You're human, okay? What's good is the first arrow was tilted this way. The second arrow was tilted this way. That's just you pressuring the bow, right? It's not this. It's not crazy. He had one go in a little bit like that. He had one a little bit go in like that. And then we put fletchings on, and it's going to correct. So the next thing we'll do is we've figured out what works, what is a good setup for Ted. Now we're going to shoot a broadhead and make sure that it is flying just like it's supposed to. We're going to check left to right broadhead flight just using a piece of tape and a cardboard. We have a great, decent bear shaft, great bear shaft flying. We have fletch flying fine. All Ted's going to do, this is how you keep from destroying your broadheads and checking broadhead flight. We're going to shoot the broadhead first, and Ted, I just want you to shoot at the tape, wherever. Yeah. I just want to see that it stays on the tape. If it goes over here, we got problems, right? That means your broadheads aren't flying straight. Yeah. So we've bear shafted, we've got a fletched, they're flying. We've got a bear shaft that's flying good. Very simple stuff. This is redneck freaking tuning, okay? There's way more complex stuff, and I know the poor hunting public guys are going to get a bunch of comments that they're trying to get a French tune and go back and you got the fling dingers and you got to, twist the cables. I got that, but that's for the rest of us. We got a good bear shaft. We got a good fletched arrow. Now we're going to check broadhead flight versus field point with fletched arrows, and all I want you to do is shoot the tape. This keeps you from grouping broadheads and destroying stuff. You just shoot the broadhead first, key, and then shoot the field point, and we want him to hit. So wherever the broadhead hits, go ahead and shoot the field point at it. If it wanders off the tape, we got broadhead flight issues. That's all this is. This is not a point of aim. It's just checking flight. All right, so Ted's gonna give the Hornet a rip tonight. We know what this does to pigs, but we're gonna give the Hornet a rip. So I have 4 or 5 of these laying around here at the test lab that have just been shot and stuff, and they're just my practice heads. So I'm gonna have them shoot the tape, and then we'll shoot the fletched arrow right next to it with a field point. And if they hit together, we're done.
So don't mess this up.
Don't mess this up.
Just hit the tape, Rodney.
Hold up a minute, Ted. You serious?
I'm trying to ice you.
Yeah. Who is this guy?
Perfect. Outstanding. I mean, that's what you want, okay? So
Yeah. That's the ideal way it goes for you.
yeah, right. Well, Ted's good. So, we've got broadhead and field point hitting together. He tried to hit the knock, but he missed.
Tried to punch another hole through
Yeah,
the flat
right.
chain.
So he's done. I mean, that's what you want to see. We did a very quick fletch shoot. We did a very quick bear shaft shot that was good and consistent on bear shaft. And then now we have a broadhead and a field point hitting
So
spot on.
I guess how'd you come up with this combination for me? Like how the spine and that weight of head. I don't
So this is just from having subscribers. I've been answering emails now for a year on this.
Yeah.
And you said, when I've talked to you, you said 60 pounds or 28
Yeah.
inches.
Yep.
And it just kind of, over time, enough people say, hey, that worked.
Right.
Right? So if I'm going to guess, my buddy Chris, who's inside, he shoots 28 and a half, 65 pounds, and this is his arrow. And it just seems to be a sweet spot. I don't know what that is.
So if that's your dimensions, I'd recommend just starting with that.
Yeah.
Start with that. It's a great starting point. It's a great deer arrow. It's a great North American all-around
Yep.
arrow. It's hell on the pigs. We're seeing a lot better penetration on them. They're really durable. We have great, everything's spot on. We know the broadheads are flying good and the field point's flying good. And once again, don't get too obsessed on here, right? Ted didn't hit the dead center of the tape. You're not that good, right? No, none of us are. But you didn't want to see the broadhead over here. That's bad, or up, or whatever. It's on line where you were aiming, and we confirmed where he was aiming with the field point. That's why you back it up with the field point. This process takes some time. This went really simple. Ted's bow, that little bear that he's shooting, he said from the get-go, they were in the shop, he said you shot 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, we
and
didn't
then you
even
were just
adjust
like,
it.
that one just keeps working.
$400 bear species bow.
Yeah, so it's a bear species, pretty simple. It's got shooting a biscuit, and it works. And we've seen him killing a lot of things with it on the channel, on their channel. So, we're just gonna give him a plan B arrow and move him up a little bit. And I'm happy. I mean, I don't know that it's just that simple. If you have a little bit of issues with your setup, you're gonna have to correct them. There's a lot of bow issues. There's a lot of timing, cams, all kind of stuff. And bows are full of screws and bolts that get loose. But your bow seems like it hadn't lost anything.
Yeah, I haven't touched it since
Right. You shot it.
January.
Right.
So.
We're gonna shoot mine next, and it probably won't be that easy.
Well,
Hopefully,
let's
it's not for a learning standpoint
Yeah,
for you
right.
guys.
Exactly. I don't know anything about bows, so we'll be screwed. Put screwdrivers in it, and take the strings off and all that. So Ted's good. Ted's done. Ted's ready to go. Hopefully we can whack something tonight.
Put one through his shoulder.
Yeah, right. Just pound